Zui TV.
A strange, reedy tune, like a flute made of wind, drifted through the closed window. Zui, who was in the middle of building a towering block castle, stopped and tilted his head. The sound was soft, almost shy, but it pulled at him with a quiet insistence. It wasn't a sound from the street or the neighbor's yard. It felt older, wilder, and it seemed to be coming from the small, dusty corner beneath his bed, where forgotten toys and old drawings lived. With a newfound curiosity, Zui got on his hands and knees and peered into the darkness.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
There, nestled behind a lost toy car, a new portal shimmered into being, a perfect circle of misty green light that pulsed with the gentle rhythm of the flute-like music. The light was cool and smelled faintly of wet earth and growing things. Zui, who had learned that magic was not something to be feared, didn't hesitate. He crawled through the opening, the world around him blurring into a swirl of emerald and jade.
Wow!
When he emerged, he was standing in a place completely different from the whispering grove he knew. This was a bamboo forest, where towering green stalks stretched toward a sky of muted pearl and the air was thick with the scent of fresh leaves. The gentle music was all around him now, and he noticed that it was coming from the bamboo stalks themselves, swaying in a soft, unseen breeze. As Zui walked deeper into the forest, he noticed a little rustle behind a thicket of bamboo. He stopped, holding his breath, and watched. He didn't want to frighten whatever was there. Slowly, a small, round head with fuzzy black ears peeked out. It was a panda. A little panda, with big, curious eyes that looked at him shyly.
That is unbelievable!
Zui knew that pandas were gentle creatures, but also that they were quiet and preferred to be left alone. Instead of rushing forward, he sat down on the ground, making himself small and non-threatening. He simply waited, watching the panda, and let the quiet of the forest settle over them. The little panda, seeing that Zui was not going to chase it, it emerged fully from the bamboo, its black and white fur as soft as a cloud.
Oh, that is so cute!
It sat down and began to nibble on a bamboo stalk, chewing slowly and deliberately.
Beautiful!
Its movements were so careful and peaceful, as if it had all the time in the world. Zui knew that he couldn't speak, not in this quiet place. So, he decided to try something else. He hummed a soft, wordless tune, one that his mother often sang to him as she tucked him in at night. It was a simple, gentle melody that sounded like a lullaby. The panda stopped chewing for a moment, its head tilted, listening intently. Zui continued to hum, and as he did, he noticed the panda's every movement with a new kind of wonder. He saw how its strong, little paws delicately held the bamboo, how its teeth expertly stripped the stalk of its tough outer layers, and how its eyes would close in pure satisfaction as it chewed on the sweet, inner part.
Look at that!
Zui felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling of understanding that went beyond words. He wasn't just watching a creature, he was seeing a friend and a fellow explorer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, smooth, polished stone he often carried.
Impressive!
He laid it on the mossy ground between them, a small offering of peace and friendship. The panda looked at the stone, then at Zui with its big, kind eyes, then back at the stone. It nudged the stone with its nose, then, with a shy flick of its ear, picked up a fresh bamboo shoot and nudged it towards Zui in return. It was a clear invitation to share. Zui had never eaten bamboo before. With a little trepidation, he took the bamboo shoot and took a small bite. The crunch was surprisingly loud in the quiet forest. It wasn't at all what he expected.
Wow!
It was crunchy, with a subtle, sweet taste, like a less sugary stalk of celery. He grinned at the panda, who seemed to understand perfectly and gave a small, happy chuffing sound. They ate their bamboo side by side, the only sounds being the gentle rustle of leaves and the satisfying crunch of their shared meal. In that moment, surrounded by the beautiful, serene forest, Zui knew that this was a friendship born of quiet moments and simple acts of kindness. As the sun began to slant through the bamboo stalks, Zui knew his time in the forest was coming to an end. He looked at his new friend and made a silent promise to return. The panda, as if sensing his thoughts, nudged him one last time and then disappeared back into the rustling stalks. Zui stood up, the green portal still waiting for him. He took one last look at the beautiful, serene forest, and then stepped back through the misty light. He landed softly on his bedroom floor. The magical light behind his bed winked out. The scent of bamboo faded from the air, but the feeling of quiet, patient friendship remained. Zui looked at his block castle, which now seemed less like a conquest and more like a quiet home. He knew now that some of the greatest adventures aren't about big, noisy rocket ships or loud treasure hunts. Zui woke up and rubbed his eyes. The first thing he saw was the round clock on his wall. It was shaped like a perfect circle with numbers all around it. The hands pointed to 7 o'clock. Time to get up. He looked around his room and noticed something funny. Shapes were everywhere. His bed was a rectangle, long and wide with 4 corners. His pillow was a square, all 4 sides were the same size. Even his window was a rectangle, letting in bright morning light. Zui walked to his dresser and opened a square drawer.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
Inside, his socks were rolled up into little balls, perfect circles. His books were stacked like rectangles, one on top of another. His lamp had a round base and a cone-shaped shade that looked like a triangle sitting on top. In the bathroom, Zui brushed his teeth. His toothbrush was long and skinny like a rectangle.
Wow!
The toothpaste came from a tube that was shaped like a cylinder, round like a circle but tall like a can. The mirror was a big rectangle that showed his face. Even his smile was curved like part of a circle. Downstairs in the kitchen, Mom was making breakfast. The table was round like a big circle. The plates were circles too, white and smooth. The toast popped up from the toaster. Each slice was a perfect square of golden bread.
That looks perfect!
Mom cut an orange, and each slice was shaped like a half circle with a curved edge. Zui poured milk from a rectangular carton into a round glass. The cereal bowl was round like a circle, and the spoon was long like a skinny oval. Even the kitchen tiles on the floor were squares, making a pattern of black and white shapes. After breakfast, Zui got ready for school. His backpack was shaped like a rectangle with straps. His lunchbox was also a rectangle, but smaller. Inside, Mom had packed a sandwich cut into triangles. Each piece had 3 sides and 3 corners. Walking to school, Zui noticed shapes everywhere on the street. Car wheels were perfect circles, rolling round and round.
Oh, that is so cute!
Windows in houses were mostly rectangles, some tall and some wide.
Beautiful!
Stop signs were special shapes called octagons. They had 8 sides and 8 corners, painted bright red. The school building had a rectangular door and square windows all in rows. The playground was full of shapes too. The swing seats were rectangles hanging from chains. The merry-go-round was a big circle that spun around and around. In his classroom, Zui sat at a rectangular desk. His pencils were long cylinders with points. Paper was rectangular, longer than it was wide. The whiteboard at the front was a big rectangle where the teacher wrote with circular markers. During math class, she held up a red circle and asked everyone to find circles in the room. Zui raised his hand and pointed to the clock, the trash can, and the globe on the teacher's desk. Next came squares. The teacher showed a yellow square card.
Look at that!
Zui found square tiles on the floor, square books on the shelf. Squares were everywhere once you started looking. Triangles were trickier to find. The teacher showed them a blue triangle card. Zui looked around and spotted triangles in the roof of the toy house in the reading corner.
Impressive!
Even some of the pattern blocks in the math center were triangular. Rectangles were the easiest to find. The teacher held up a green rectangle card. Doors were rectangles. The windows, the whiteboard, even the classroom itself was shaped like a big rectangle. During art class, they made shape collages. Zui cut out circles from red paper, squares from blue paper, and triangles from yellow paper. He arranged them on white paper to make a picture. His circles became wheels on a car. His squares became windows on a house. His triangles became the roof and trees.
Wow!
Walking home from school, Zui played the shape spotting game in his head. Street lights had circular tops. Mailboxes were rectangular. Some roofs were triangular, pointing up to the sky. Even the manhole covers in the street were perfect circles with patterns inside. At home, Zui helped Mom cook dinner. They used a round pan to make pancakes. The pancakes came out as perfect circles, golden and fluffy. For dinner, they sat at their round table again. The pizza was cut into triangular slices. Each piece was a triangle with a curved edge where the crust made part of a circle. Zui's favorite part was seeing how all the triangle pieces fit together to make the whole circular pizza. Before bed, Zui looked out his rectangular bedroom window at the night sky. The moon was almost a perfect circle, bright and white against the dark sky. Stars looked like tiny dots, but Dad said they were really like circles too, just very far away. As he got ready for bed, Zui realized something amazing. Shapes were not just things you learned about in school, they were everywhere. Every single day was full of circles, squares, rectangles, and triangles. Every morning, Zui woke up excited about something special. It was not toys or games that made him happy. It was the yummy fruits waiting for him in the kitchen. His mom always had a big bowl of colorful fruits on the table, and each day was like opening a box of sweet treasures. The first fruit Zui loved was the bright red apple. It was round like a ball and made a satisfying crunch when he bit into it. Mom would wash the apple until it shined, and sometimes she would cut it into thin slices that looked like half-moons. The apple tasted sweet and a little bit sour at the same time, and it made his mouth feel fresh and clean.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
Next to the apples were golden yellow bananas. They came in their own special wrapper that Zui could peel by himself. He loved how the banana was soft and sweet, almost like nature's own candy.
Wow!
Sometimes Mom would slice the bananas and put them on his cereal. In the summer, Zui's favorite fruit was bright red strawberries.
Oh, that is so cute!
They were small and shaped like little hearts with green tops that looked like tiny hats. Each strawberry was covered in small seeds that looked like polka dots.
That looks perfect!
When Zui bit into a strawberry, sweet juice would run down his chin. The orange was Zui's puzzle fruit. It was round like a ball, but it had a special bumpy skin that he could peel with his fingers. Inside, the orange was made of little triangular pieces that came apart like nature's own slices. When he squeezed a piece, sweet orange juice would squirt out. The orange made his fingers smell citrusy and fresh for hours. Grapes were Zui's favorite finger food. They grew in bunches like green or purple marbles hanging together. Each grape was perfectly round and smooth, and when he bit one, it would pop in his mouth with a burst of sweet juice.
Beautiful!
The funny-looking kiwi was Zui's adventure fruit. On the outside, it was brown and fuzzy like a tiny coconut. But when Mom cut it open, inside was bright green with a white center and tiny black seeds in a circle. The kiwi tasted sweet and a little bit sour, and it was so colorful that it looked like a tiny green sun with black dots around it. Watermelon was Zui's summer favorite. It was huge and green on the outside with dark green stripes. When Dad cut it open, inside was bright red or sometimes yellow, full of black seeds that looked like tiny teardrops. Watermelon was so juicy that it was like eating flavored water that tasted like sunshine and summer days. The exotic mango was Zui's tropical treasure. It was oval-shaped and could be yellow, red, or green on the outside. When Mom cut it up, The inside was bright orange like the sunset.
Look at that!
Mango was incredibly sweet and soft, almost like eating a creamy dessert. The flavor was so rich and special that it made Zui feel like he was eating sunshine from a faraway place. Blueberries were Zui's tiny gems. Each one was perfectly round and dark blue, no bigger than his pinky nail. They had a little crown on top and were sweet with just a tiny bit of tartness. Zui loved to eat them one by one, or sometimes he would put a whole handful in his mouth and taste the explosion of berry flavor. Pineapple was Zui's spiky surprise. On the outside, it looked tough and mean with its spiky skin and green leafy top. But inside, it was golden yellow and incredibly sweet. Mom would cut it into rings or chunks, and each bite tasted like tropical paradise.
Impressive!
The pineapple was so juicy that it made Zui's mouth tingle in the best way. Peaches were Zui's fuzzy friends. They were round like apples but covered in soft fuzz that tickled his hands. The skin could be yellow, pink, or red, and inside they were orange or white. Peaches were incredibly juicy, and when Zui bit into one, the sweet juice would run down his hands. They smelled like summer and tasted like happiness. Cherries were Zui's special treats. They were small and perfectly round, bright red or sometimes yellow, and each one had a little green stem like a handle.
Wow!
Inside each cherry was a hard pit that Mom would take out for him. Cherries were sweet and a little bit sour, and they turned his tongue red when he ate too many. Every day, Zui would choose different fruits from the colorful bowl. Sometimes he would make fruit salad by mixing pieces of apple, banana, and strawberry together. Other days, he would have a rainbow snack with red strawberries, orange pieces, yellow banana, green grapes, and purple blueberries all on one plate. Mom taught Zui that fruits were not just yummy, they were also very good for his body. They helped him grow strong and tall, kept his teeth healthy, and gave him energy to play and learn. The vitamins in fruits were like tiny helpers inside his body, making sure everything worked perfectly. At snack time, instead of cookies or candy, Zui would choose his favorite fruits. Sometimes he would have apple slices with a tiny bit of peanut butter, or banana pieces with yogurt. Other times, he would have a handful of berries or some juicy orange pieces. Even when they went on picnics or trips, Mom would pack fruits in containers so Zui could have his healthy treats anywhere. The fruits gave him energy to run and play, and they always tasted better when he was hungry from being active. As night came and it was time for bed, Zui would think about all the delicious fruits he had eaten that day. The car was packed with bags, towels, and snacks. Today was the special day Zui had been waiting for all week. His family was going to the beach. As they drove, Zui pressed his face against the window, watching trees and houses go by. Soon, he could smell something salty and fresh in the air. When they arrived, Zui's eyes grew wide. The beach was huge. Sand stretched far in every direction, like a giant sandbox that went on forever.
That looks perfect!
The water was blue and sparkled in the sunshine, with white foam waves that rolled up and down the shore.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
He had never seen so much water in his whole life.
Wow!
Dad carried the beach umbrella while Mom brought the cooler. Zui carried his own special beach bag with his new bucket and shovel. They found a perfect spot on the warm sand and set up their colorful umbrella. It made a nice shady circle where they could rest and eat snacks. The first thing Zui wanted to do was touch the water. He took off his shoes and ran toward the waves. The sand felt warm and soft under his feet, but as he got closer to the water, it became cool and wet.
Ah, that is so cute!
When a wave rolled up and touched his toes, he giggled and jumped back. The water was cold and bubbly. Soon, Zui was brave enough to walk into the shallow water. The waves would come up to his knees and then go back out again. He loved how the water pushed and pulled at his legs. Sometimes a bigger wave would splash up and get his shorts wet, making him laugh and run back to the dry sand. Dad helped Zui build his first sandcastle. They used the bucket to make tall towers and the shovel to dig a moat around it. The wet sand stuck together perfectly, and soon they had a beautiful castle with walls and towers.
Beautiful!
Zui decorated it with seashells and small stones he found nearby. Mom showed Zui how to look for seashells along the water's edge. Each wave brought new treasures to the shore. They found shells that were white and smooth, others that were pink and bumpy, and some that were tiny and curved like little horns. Zui filled his bucket with the prettiest shells he could find. The most exciting discovery was a hermit crab.
Look at that!
It was hiding in a big shell, and when Zui looked closely, he could see its little legs peeking out. Dad explained that the crab lived in the shell like it was his house. They watched it crawl around for a while, then gently put it back near the water where it belonged. For lunch, they had sandwiches and fruit under the umbrella. The food tasted extra good because they were so hungry from playing in the sun and sand. Zui's sandwich had a little bit of sand on it, but he didn't mind. Everything tasted better at the beach. After lunch, Dad brought out a colorful beach ball. They played catch, trying to keep the ball in the air without letting it touch the ground. Sometimes the ball would fly toward the water, and they would all run after it, laughing. Mom packed a surprise in the beach bag, a bright red kite shaped like a fish. The wind at the beach was perfect for flying kites. Dad helped Zui hold the string while the kite danced high up in the blue sky.
Impressive!
It looked like a real fish swimming through the air. As the afternoon went on, Zui discovered more fun things to do in the sand. He dug a big hole near their umbrella, seeing how deep he could make it before it filled up with water. He built roads and tunnels, creating a whole city in the sand. The waves kept bringing new things to explore. Zui found pieces of smooth sea glass that looked like green and blue jewels. He discovered long pieces of seaweed that felt slippery and smelled like the ocean. There were smooth pebbles of all colors, black, white, gray, and brown. When his feet got too hot from the warm sand, Zui would run back to the cool water. He learned to jump over the small waves as they came in. Sometimes he would time it just right and jump over the white foamy water. Mom helped Zui write his name in the wet sand using a stick.
Wow!
The letters were big and clear, and they took a picture before the next wave could wash it away. They also drew pictures in the sand, a sun, a fish, and a happy face with a big smile. As the sun began to get lower in the sky, they played one more game. Dad buried Zui's legs in the sand, leaving just his head and arms sticking out. It felt funny to be stuck in the cool, heavy sand. Before leaving, they collected some of their best shells and sea glass to take home as souvenirs. Zui also helped clean up their area, picking up any trash they saw to keep the beach beautiful for the sea animals and other families. The ride home was quiet. Zui was tired from all the sun and fun, but he was also happy. His hair smelled like salt water, his skin felt warm from the sun, and his pockets were full of beach treasures. He looked at the shells in his bucket and remembered each place he had found them. That night, Zui put his favorite shells on his bedroom windowsill where he could see them every day. Every time he looked at them, he could remember the sound of the waves, the feeling of cool water on his feet, and the way the sand felt between his fingers. Before going to sleep, Zui asked Mom and Dad when they could go back to the beach. He already had ideas for new sand castles to build, more shells to find, and bigger waves to jump over. A rainbow bridge made of crunchy vegetable slices appeared in front of Zui, stretching high into the fluffy white clouds.
That looks perfect!
Each step was a different color, orange carrot rounds, green broccoli trees, red tomato wheels, and purple eggplant circles. As Zui climbed higher and higher, the air began to smell like the most delicious garden party ever thrown.
Wow!
At the top of the rainbow bridge, Zui discovered Veggie Wonderland, a magical kingdom where vegetables weren't just food, they were the happiest, most colorful friends anyone could imagine. The ground was soft and rich like chocolate cake, and everywhere he looked, amazing vegetables grew in the most surprising ways.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
The first friend Zui met was Captain Carrot, standing tall and proud like an orange soldier. Captain Carrot had spent months growing underground, getting sweeter and crunchier every day. When Zui took a bite, it tasted like sunshine mixed with a tiny bit of candy. Captain Carrot explained that he was full of something special called beta-carotene, which helped eyes see better, especially in the dark. As proof, Captain Carrot pointed to some rabbits nearby who could hop around perfectly even when the sun went down.
Oh, that is so cute!
Next, Zui stumbled into Broccoli Forest, where thousands of tiny green trees grew together like a miniature jungle. Each broccoli tree was actually made up of hundreds of tiny flower buds, waiting to bloom yellow if left alone. But when cooked just right, they tasted like little green clouds filled with butter and cheese. The broccoli trees whispered that they were superheroes in disguise, packed with vitamins that made bones strong and helped cuts heal faster. In the corner of Veggie Wonderland grew the most amazing tomato town, where round red tomatoes hung like lanterns from green vines. Some tomatoes were big and juicy, perfect for sandwiches, while others were tiny like marbles and burst with sweet flavor.
Beautiful!
The tomatoes giggled when Zui discovered they were actually fruits pretending to be vegetables, but they didn't mind the mix-up because they loved being part of salads and pizzas. Sweet Potato Valley was painted in gorgeous shades of orange and purple. The sweet potatoes had been sleeping underground, slowly turning their insides into the most delicious, creamy sweetness.
Look at that!
When baked, they tasted like candy that was good for you, and they were so colorful that they made every plate look like a work of art. The sweet potatoes told Zui they were full of energy that lasted all day long, not the quick kind that disappeared fast. Spinach springs bubbled with dark green leaves that looked like they were dancing in the breeze. Popeye the Sailor had made spinach famous, but these spinach leaves had their own special magic. They were packed with iron that helped blood carry oxygen all around the body, making people feel strong and energetic. When mixed into smoothies with fruits, the spinach disappeared completely but left all its good nutrition behind. Bell Pepper Plaza was the most colorful place in all of Veggie Wonderland. Red, yellow, orange, and green bell peppers stood like cheerful buildings, each one crunchy and sweet. The red peppers were the oldest and sweetest, while the green ones were young and had a fresh, crisp taste.
Impressive!
They loved being eaten raw with ranch dressing or cooked in stir-fries where they added beautiful color and crunch. Corn Castle stood tall with golden kernels arranged in perfect rows like tiny soldiers. Each ear of corn was wrapped in green husks like a present waiting to be unwrapped. When cooked, the kernels popped with sweet, buttery flavor. Corn was special because it came in so many forms, on the cob, as popcorn, and even ground up into tortillas and bread. Cucumber Creek flowed with the coolest, most refreshing vegetables in the kingdom. The cucumbers were mostly water, which made them perfect for hot days when Zui needed to cool down. They tasted crisp and clean, like drinking water but with a satisfying crunch. Sliced thin, they made sandwiches fresh and light.
Wow!
In Pea Pod Village, hundreds of little green peas lived together inside cozy greenhouses. Each pod held a family of peas that tasted sweet and fresh. The peas were proud that they could be eaten raw right from the pod or cooked until tender and mixed with butter and mint. Zucchini gardens grew the most versatile vegetables of all. Zucchini could hide in almost any food, grated into muffins and bread where it added moisture and nutrition without changing the taste. Spiraled into noodles, it became a healthy substitute for pasta. Sliced and grilled, it tasted smoky and delicious. The greatest discovery in Veggie Wonderland was the secret sauce station, where Zui learned that vegetables tasted even better when prepared with love. A little bit of butter, cheese, or his favorite seasonings could transform any vegetable into something amazing. Roasting vegetables in the oven made them caramelized and sweet. Even hiding vegetables in smoothies, soups, and sauces meant he could eat them without even knowing they were there. As the sun began to set over Veggie Wonderland, all the vegetable friends gathered for a great feast. They had prepared themselves in dozens of delicious ways: roasted, steamed, grilled, and fresh. Zui realized that eating vegetables wasn't about forcing down food he didn't like. It was about discovering how many amazing flavors and textures were waiting for him to try. Snowflakes began to twirl down from the sky like soft, glittery feathers, landing gently on Zui's nose and making him giggle. The trees wore coats of sparkling white, and the rooftops looked like they were topped with whipped cream.
That looks perfect!
Zui tugged his bright, cozy scarf tighter and took a step outside. He could feel a tickle in the air, the kind that meant something magical had changed. Winter had arrived in his world.
Wow!
The whole neighborhood sparkled under a blanket of fresh snow. Footprints crunched under Zui's boots as he made his way to the playground.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
The swings and slides, usually so busy, now looked like frosted statues waiting for laughter to return. At the center of the park, Zui found a group of friendly snowflakes dancing in midair. They spun faster and faster, weaving sparkling trails that left behind little secrets in the snowdrifts. Up the hill, children were building snow forts and smiling snowmen with button eyes and bright, orange carrot noses. Each snowman wore a unique hat. One had a teapot, another had a knitted cap with pom-poms, and one even wore a shiny cooking pot on his head.
That is so cute!
The snowmen seemed to be greeting everyone, their stick arms stretched out in welcome. Zui joined the children, rolling giant snowballs and stacking them up until their mittened hands tingled with cold. From the top of the hill, the world looked soft and peaceful. The lake was frozen and shined like glass, and big puffy clouds of steam puffed from cottage chimneys. The air was filled with the happy noises of winter, children shouting with joy as they slid down the hill on sleds. Zui watched as his breath made little white clouds that floated away like tiny ghosts. Bundled up in a thick jacket, Zui followed the lovely smell of something sweet and warm. It led him to a small wooden stall, where Mrs. Patel handed out cups of hot cocoa topped with clouds of creamy marshmallow.
Beautiful!
Zui wrapped his cold fingers around the mug and felt the warmth travel all the way to his toes. All around, everyone had red cheeks and shining eyes, smiling at each other in pure winter happiness. A little further on, animals were getting ready for their own winter adventures.
Look at that!
Squirrels scampered up trees, carrying acorns to tuck away in hidden places. Their fluffy tails looked extra bushy in the cold air. Birds fluffed their feathers and searched for seeds. Even the family cat next door had grown a thicker, fluffier coat that made him look like a walking cloud. Zui loved the way the air tasted in winter, crisp, fresh, and extra clean. It made him want to run, jump, and play even more. He made angel shapes in the snow, waving his arms and legs, and soon the white field was full of Zui-shaped angels with big, snowy wings. He raced friends in sleds, tried ice skating on a frozen pond, and even played hide-and-seek behind snow-covered bushes that looked like giant white monsters. Winter brought special foods that made everyone's tummies happy.
Impressive!
Winter nights in Zui's town were magical, too.
See you tomorrow!
A soft, golden light began to glow from inside Zui's toy chest, and the lid slowly creaked open by itself. From deep within the pile of toys, something fuzzy and warm started to move. Out popped the most adorable teddy bear anyone had ever seen, with fur as soft as cotton candy and eyes that sparkled like tiny stars. This wasn't just any ordinary stuffed animal, this was Fluffy Bear, and today was the day he would become Zui's greatest adventure companion.
That looks perfect!
Fluffy Bear stretched his little arms and yawned the cutest yawn, as if he had been sleeping for 100 years and was finally ready to explore the world.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch my videos daily.
His honey-colored fur caught the morning sunlight streaming through the window, making him glow like a magical creature from a fairy tale. And his black button nose twitched with curiosity about everything around him.
Oh, that is so cute!
The moment Zui picked up Fluffy Bear, something wonderful happened. The bear felt perfectly warm, as if he had been sitting by a cozy fireplace all morning. His fur was so incredibly soft that Zui couldn't stop running his fingers through it, and when he hugged Fluffy Bear tight, the bear seemed to hug him back with invisible arms full of comfort and love. Fluffy Bear had arrived at exactly the right time. Zui had been feeling a little lonely lately, wishing for someone to share his thoughts and adventures with. But now, looking into Fluffy Bear's kind, understanding eyes, he knew he had found the perfect friend. Fluffy Bear was the kind of friend who would never get tired of listening, never judge any idea as silly, and never be too busy for an adventure. Their first adventure together started right in Zui's bedroom. Fluffy Bear became the co-pilot of a spaceship made from chairs and blankets. Together, they flew to distant planets where everything was made of marshmallows and the rivers flowed with chocolate milk. Fluffy Bear was brave when they encountered friendly aliens, and he always knew exactly which buttons to press to make their spaceship go faster through the asteroid fields. When they returned to Earth, Fluffy Bear transformed into the wisest doctor in the world.
Look at that!
Zui set up a hospital for all his other toys, and Dr. Fluffy Bear carefully examined each patient with a toy stethoscope. He prescribed hugs for the broken toy car, extra cuddles for the doll with the tangled hair, and plenty of rest for the action figure with the loose arm. Every toy felt better after a visit from Dr. Fluffy Bear. At snack time, Fluffy Bear sat patiently at the little table, listening to all of Zui's stories about school, friends, and dreams for the future. Even though Fluffy Bear couldn't eat the cookies or drink the milk, he seemed to enjoy every bite just by watching Zui's happiness.
Chet, I'll tell you a secret. Fluffy Bear says he can taste with his heart, not his mouth. Isn't that magical? He told me cookies taste like sunshine and milk tastes like giggles. Isn't that silly? What do you think happiness would taste like? Maybe strawberries or pancakes? I think happiness tastes like warm cookies fresh from the oven. What about you? What does happiness taste like for you?
During our time, Fluffy Bear became the most patient model anyone could ask for.
Impressive!
He sat perfectly still while Zui drew picture after picture of his fuzzy face, never complaining when the crayons made his fur look purple instead of brown. Every artwork was a masterpiece in Fluffy Bear's eyes, and he seemed prouder of each drawing than any museum curator. When afternoon storms rumbled outside, Fluffy Bear showed his true superpower, chasing away fears and worries. The thunder that used to make Zui feel scared suddenly seemed less frightening when Fluffy Bear was there to be brave alongside him. They would sit by the window together, watching the rain dance on the glass.
Wow!
Bedtime was when Fluffy Bear truly shined as the world's greatest best friend. He listened to all of Zui's whispered secrets, dreams, and even worries about tomorrow. Fluffy Bear never interrupted or offered solutions. He simply provided the comfort of knowing that someone was listening with a heart full of love. His soft fur absorbed any tears, and his warm presence chased away any nighttime monsters that might be hiding in the shadows.
Do shadows ever look spooky at night? Sometimes they do. But Fluffy Bear and I play a shadow game. We imagine the shadows are silly shapes. That shadow is a dinosaur, roar, and that one looks like a duck, quack, quack. Can you make a silly shadow shape with your hand right now? See? Shadows aren't scary, they're funny friends.
On days when nothing seemed to go right, when toys broke or friends were mean, Fluffy Bear was there with silent understanding. He didn't try to fix everything with words, but his steady, loving presence reminded Zui that some things in life were constant and dependable. A hug from Fluffy Bear could turn the worst day into something manageable, and his patient smile seemed to promise that tomorrow would be better. Fluffy Bear also became Zui's adventure planning partner. They would spread maps on the floor and plan imaginary trips to jungles where they would discover new animals, to mountains where they would plant flags at the very top, and to oceans where they would swim with dolphins. Every plan felt possible when Fluffy Bear was nodding encouragingly from across the map. As weeks turned into months, Fluffy Bear became more than just a toy. He became a keeper of memories, a guardian of dreams. He was there for every important moment, every small victory, and every tiny disappointment.
See you tomorrow!